it's not the pursuit of happiness, it's the happiness of the pursuit.
All right, we're going to get things going. Welcome to the Texas Embassy Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Give a shout out to this beautiful studio, which is the LFG crew.
I love the studio.
They have all the equipment.
It's got a great vibe. I feel good. Our office in Detroit has a very similar vibe. It's very like open and eclectic and kind of that thing. So yeah,
it sparks that creativity.
Yeah, it feels good. I'm a big believer in that. I'm a karma guy. I love karma.
And then like what we were just talking about is like getting shit done.
GSD. I actually have acquired the URL for getshitdone.com.
Spoiler alert. Awesome. I love that. We'll have to do something with that.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's
a whole community of get shit done behind that.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we get started for our audience, tell us about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Michael Check, actually John Michael Check Jr. My dad was John Check. We grew up in a family with 6 kids, 4 girls, and me and my brother. He was an entrepreneur before he was even an entrepreneur, before in the 60s. And we'd hang out on the weekends with him at his shop. He was not tool and die, but machine tool business.
Literally bending metal.
Bending stuff.
Love it.
He was in the EDM and industrial lasers. So he was big in the aerospace industry. So we'd run around and there would be like machines running. It was kind of a little scary, but back then, if your kid made it, that was cool. If something happened that was like, what is it, Darwin's theory? You had 6 kids, maybe you might have 4 at the end. No, I'm joking. It was never like that. But it was cool that way. So I grew up in Michigan. I left to go to Arizona State because I hated Michigan weather. Hated the winters. Just hated it. And then weirdly, I'm the only kid that actually moved back to Michigan. All of them kind of went and did something else. I didn't finish school at Arizona State. I screwed around way too much.
I think at one point in time, that's like the #1 party school.
I think I helped contribute.
Did you help?
That.
Okay,
I made that happen. We were all.
You heard it here, folks.
We were all part of that. We had a mission.
That's cool.
I was a fraternity guy, but I loved it though. It was great there.
What'd you study?
I studied aerospace engineering.
Okay, excellent.
And I got my pilot's license while I was there.
Oh wow!
So I could fly. Didn't get my private license, but I got my solo license, so I could fly and do whatever I wanted to. I had a friend that we used to ski. We were skiers, and we used to fly together to like Flagstaff. That's north of Arizona. So we always did that. So I was always kind of in that world of just a little bit on the edge of stuff, and
a maverick in the making.
I felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that. I went to work in the software business, like right off in my career. And
back in Arizona, or did you go back home to Michigan?
I went back to Michigan.
Okay.
And I got a job, for a company called Machine Vision International. It was kind of a digital inspection solution. So it was like true edgy stuff. But in 95 was like when I really started my career. And I went to work for this company called Alias World. I was trying to get the job at Alias. And they were in the 3D content creation, a lot of stuff for special effects and car design and all that stuff. And my friend referred me to the recruiter who was looking for somebody to take that job. I loved the technology. And when I got the offer, it was a horrible offer.
But
my wife hated it because we had 3 kids at the time. And it's like the salary was $30K.
Did you meet your wife in Arizona?
No, met her in Michigan. I met her through my brother. She went to school in Michigan. And I had to convince her, like, this is where I wanted to be. And I've kind of been in that space ever since 95. So what is that, 30 years? And because I love it. It's really interesting. It's super passionate and all that. So that's why I'm here in Austin. We're here at the Blender conference. And Blender is, I don't know if you're...
No, please let everyone know. Yeah.
It's open source technology, and it's all about the community. And that's the kind of the unique thing about it. It reminded me of when I went to work for Alias in 95. We had the same personality. Everybody was just getting stuff done, but we were all part of this nice community. And I even remember like SIGGRAPH is a big trade show that is big in our industry. And there were people lining up outside of our booth just to buy merchandise, just to buy Alias Wavefront merchandise. There was that passionate. So, Alias got bought by Autodesk and kind of lost that personality. And we started, my son, Andrew, who works at Linkage as well. He's a designer. He went to school at CCS, College for Creative Studies. And he said, we got to start to think about this Blender software. And I said, like, how much does this sell for? And he goes, it's free.
Oh, so your son introduced you to it.
And I said, like, how do you make money at that? And he said, it's all about the community. And they're very, very passionate about sharing ideas and job opportunities and that kind of stuff. So we got into it, Marcus, because a lot of our users, a lot of our clients at our different sites, automotive design sites, started using Blender. And so I started Linkage in 2010, and with the intent to just kind of like do the right thing, take care of employees, take care of customers, kind of that relationship mentality. And we have about 60 people all together now working at different car studio locations. Ford and Waymo are our biggest customers. So we sell the software that we use. We do the training, we do services, we do people on site, that kind of thing. So it's kind of a wide variety, but it's all about this solution-oriented stuff. And so Blender is, we just kind of we don't know if we're going to make any money at it, but we just really love the community. It's very cool.
Hey, we were talking to the CEO of Blender, Francesco, and I loved his story about, number one, Blender, and the story behind that. I think Tor was the original.
Tone,
but
yeah, he's Dutch.
Yeah, so just listening to his entrepreneurial story,
really,
and then when Francisco took it over, and really maintaining those ethos and kind of that communal sense, it's very hard.
But they have a foundation that they set up, and it's a legal foundation that you can't sell it. There's been a lot of companies that have wanted to buy Blender, and Tone has been super passionate about that. I knew him in the 90s. He used to work at Alias a long, long time ago. I think he was, or at least he was affiliated with it. But I think he's a designer. He's a product designer. So he had passion about 3D modeling, but he also had passion about, share the technology. Don't be, there's a lot of companies in our space that are all about grinding it out and making a lot of money. And that was not his pursuit. He was cool about that.
Yeah, still to this day, right? It's a community, like you said.
Very much so.
When we were riding the elevator, like, hey, you love the community, and people need to be able to connect to that. That's humanistic.
Well, I think so too. And you had like last night we had the event here, right, and you had like 60 people here, and we don't really know hardly any of those people, but they're all very open about sharing ideas and looking for jobs and sharing experiences and things like that. Like a couple of them, like just sitting out there on your little balcony, they're like, hey, what do you do? They're very cool about that. And so yesterday and today was the Beacon event here in Austin. There's a Beacon event in Amsterdam that's just absolutely, it sells out every year.
What Francisco was telling us is that kind of marks the birthday, right? So whenever there's a Beacon, that's usually, Blender hit a birthday or another birthday, and they kind of celebrate it.
They've been around for a long time. And if you take a look at it, the Blender development team is not big. There's like less than 20 people on their development team. That's exactly what he
was saying. It's a very small
team.
So
they're very, very nimble. They rely on the foundation. So if I can put in a plug for anything, give to the Blender Foundation. If you use the software, throw a little money at them. That I'm not going to say they struggle, but they have a hard time keeping up with the needs and demands and things like that. So the foundation is very important for them.
And they want to be able to, I guess, maintain the progression of reality, right, to some degree. So they are a forward-thinking organization too.
No question.
And I will tell you that, I don't want to give away the information, but to echo what you said, they are the right community to make a contribution because of this platform being free.
No question.
And accessible. And look, I will tell you, I didn't grow up as a Blender expert by no stretch. And when somebody said Blender, I associated with something really cool, a visual. And I was like, okay, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then when I went to the website, I was like, wait, this is free?
Yeah.
And then looking at it, and then I was like, okay, it's somewhat a little complicated. It's not, that tough. But then the community on YouTube was there and teaching each other on this. So this platform allows you to spark even more opportunity.
Well, the other thing that we're really big on starting people out young, having them learn, because a lot of young people coming out of school, whether it's high school or university, they struggle with what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And, we try to get them exposed to the software as soon as you can. Like a lot of these kids will pick up Blender in their early teens. They figure it out. It's pretty amazing.
I think you told me last night that your son, when he was in school, stopped drawing and shifted from pencil to Blender in that way.
Well, he was a sketcher as a kid. We remember him sketching, and he used to go to these art things. Like my wife's a teacher. She's a kindergarten teacher. So she's always been big on education, and she would take him to these art academies and all that. And he'd start out with his buddies, would go with him. And then pretty soon after a while, they stopped going. And he was the only one that would keep doing it because he loved it so much. So he was a sketcher, and he's got really, really good sketching skills. But as he started to hone his skills, he started to become more a 3D modeler. And I think that's what happens with a lot of designers. They just gravitate towards putting things in 3D faster.
Right.
Because they can visualize it already. They don't need to have a sketch to reference it. Because that's kind of a tricky thing, right? Like a designer sketches something. It's kind of the mentality in the digital pipeline in our world, in the automotive space. Designers sketch, they throw a sketch over the wall, a modeler, an alias sculptor, digital sculptor, has to interpret that sketch. And sometimes that's not easy. Like the designers cheat the sketch, big wheels and big arches. Well, how do we model that? That's your job. So the motivation now is to get designers using digital tools like 3D modeling earlier. And so Blender has opened that up big time because a lot of the designers picked it up in school. There's art centers in Pasadena, College for Creative Studies, CCS in Detroit, Cleveland Institute in Cleveland, obviously, and then Royal College, kind of like your 4 major art schools. So they're very community oriented. Like if one kid is doing something and he models it and he renders it in Blender, they all whoa, what are you doing?
Right.
So they're big on sharing. So that kind of
is carried over.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, come on in, let me teach you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great.
Can we go back to Linkage?
Yeah.
So when did you gain the confidence to say, you know what, I'm gonna do this? Like the entrepreneurial leap, if you will.
It was probably the worst time to start a company. It was 2010 in Detroit.
The bounce back.
There was a black cloud of locusts over the city of Detroit. It was horrible. A lot of people were leaving. The autos were having a seriously hard time. So there was a company, Volvo Truck, down in Greensboro, North Carolina, that was looking for resources. And some friends contacted me and said, hey, we can't find anybody. Can you help us? And so I did it just more as a favor for somebody, started out doing it. And I said, I think I could turn this into a business. So that's when that conversation, that once again, a hard conversation to have with your wife to try to convince her to start and use our own money. Because, back then, Marcus, you couldn't get venture money. There was nothing. I couldn't get a line of credit. I begged Bank of America, and Bank of America is a decent bank. They're a big bank. Tried to get a line of credit, nothing. So I was all self-financed. And for the longest time, it took me 3 years to finally turn a profit. And so that was tricky. That was hard, but I really loved what we were doing. I loved the mentality of putting designers on site at different car companies or doing project-related stuff. But it takes a while. So any recommendation or any advice I give to people who start their own company is just be prepared. Be prepared. There's a 2 or 3 year float that you may have to finance your own thing. It's gotten better. I don't know, there's tons of cabbage and they're all out there. And I get 10 email a day of somebody saying, I have 200K in line of credit. We don't need it anymore.
Right.
But when you needed it, they weren't there.
Yeah, that's funny you say that because I'm starting to see those emails too. Like, hey, congratulations. If you want to do more, we're here for you. It's like, where were you at the beginning?
So I stuck with it, but I have the mentality of like building long-term relationships. And so Volvo Trucks still a customer,
Wow.
16 years later.
That's a
It's amazing.
That's a big statement, an amazing one. Congratulations.
Thank you. And, Detroit's a relationship town. It's all about that. Ford is one of our biggest customers.
I like Ford. I mean, not just the
Well, you
the
guys love
truck.
your F-150.
Yeah, we do, but like more in the commercials. There was one, the Breaking Bad, I forget the actor's name, where he's doing these snippets. And I was like, yes, like that was one of those awe-inspiring commercials like what you saw Apple with Steve Jobs.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, no, I love this. Speeches, or what did they say? Speeches didn't put people on the moon.
Right.
Engineers did. I was like, yes, that's exactly right.
Ford's a great company to work with. They are very team oriented. A lot of family members work there, like nephews of execs or
The
whatever.
lineage still connected.
And we tried this program early on. I was a big believer of getting people in the industry as quickly as we can right out of school. And we sometimes get designers who get passed over. They may not be like the best sketcher in the world, but they have good, like broad range of skills. They're decent sketchers. They're good modelers. They're good viz people. They're good at all these other tools. So we started a program with Ford early on. It's not an apprentice program, but it's more like a work study program. And we gave these kids like 90 days to 6 months to make a go of it. And I always told them like, hey, you got to prove yourself. And every day they're watching you, like, oh, that kid's not working that hard, that kind of thing. So that program has been great. So it's a junior modeling program. It's all digital modelers. So people coming out of school. And we're even starting to kind of like go down the next level to like community college and high school.
I think.
I hired a kid who had like no formal design training. And somebody referred him to me and I said, like, what are you good at? He goes, I love games. I love games. And we taught him Alias, and he's like now an amazing, amazing modeler. Just because he could see things in 3D.
Sure.
And that's kind of like clay modelers turn into good digital modelers because they visualize things in 3D. And that's kind of the tricky part for some people, is to kind of like go from 2D to 3D and think in 3D. So those programs are really good for us. And we start them out at a low salary, and we give them increments along the way. And probably, it's not good for our business because a lot of our people get hired direct by the car companies.
Right.
But we feel good about it because we found a good person who's now a direct modeler and now a manager and now a director.
See, those stories actually, I that's kind of like a drug for me, is when I get to help somebody with just even a small gesture, and you don't recognize that until later on down.
Yeah.
Like when they call you and say, hey, Mark, I don't know if you remember me or remember this gesture, but this is the effect that it had, and I just wanted to say thank you. I was like, oh, boom, that'll charge my battery for a year.
You expect no compensation for it.
Nothing.
It's all about just doing the right thing. I've always kept that mentality. And, I still keep in touch with a lot of people who are like kids who just needed a chance.
They just want a shot.
They want a shot. And give me a shot. Let me prove it. So, hiring people is tricky now these days in our space, because AI can you can cheat sketches and you can have AI build your portfolio basically. But so we look for work ethic. We look for a lot of referrals and all that. And we try to find people who have like good skills. Good.
Have you thought about the veteran community?
That's a great question, because I was just talking to a friend of mine who's in San Diego. He referred me to somebody who was a woman who was in the Army and did her tour, whatever. And she's taking classes from him. There's a school down there that he teaches at. He used to be in the auto industry. He was at Nissan for a long time. And I thought her stuff was really good. So yes, we don't do it enough. We need to do it more. Now, Linkage was acquired by a company called Mechdyne.
Yeah, congratulations that you told me that last night. You have an exit on your belt. That's pretty.
You're welcome.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Like we talked about, it wasn't intended to, this company called Exit Partners said, "What's your exit strategy?" I said, "What are you talking about?"
I think that's important. Please tell that story of how that, because some entrepreneurs listen to this channel and they would love to at least not hang up on that person that calls them.
You have to have a filter, because they're everywhere. All those people the investment bankers are gonna take you, blah blah blah. But I really like the personality, and these guys are in Texas. I think they're in Dallas. Exit Partners is the name of the company. They reached out to me, and he had kind of a cool Texas drawl. Like,
all right, the Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah,
draw.
he's like, "Hey, have you thought about your exit strategy?" I said, "What the hell are you talking about? I have no exit strategy at all." And he said, "Well, you should think about that." And I said, "Well, why should I?" I was kind of not confrontational with him, but I said, "Why should I think about exit strategy? I'm not planning on exiting." He goes, "Well, yeah, but you always he said, first thing he told me, which was really good advice, exiting your company is not overnight. It takes a while. You have to put your financials together. You got to get your stuff together. You got to get your thing out there." And I said, "I don't want to do any of that." But they were really keen on all that. They packaged us up nicely, and we had a lot of offers. Not because of that, but I had offers all along the way.
Sure.
And even now I get them 2 times a day. You thought about selling your company? But they were very, very good. And they give you the nice thing about Exit Partners, they gave us two options. You could pay up front or take a percentage of the deal.
Right.
And I didn't have them, I had money. I mean, we were highly profitable. But I said, yeah, let's just give you percentage of the deal. And that worked out really well. And these guys were very, very good. They were very consultative. They kind of walked you through the whole thing. It's kind of like finding a good realtor. They're out there, but the one that works with you.
It's really wanting to get behind your vision, your goals, and tailor it to specifically you.
And so they were a good conduit between us and Mechdyne, who's a Midwestern company based in Iowa. I didn't really I wanted to stay. I know it's weird, but people are saying "Oh, yeah, you leave, you move on." But I really wanted to stay because it was kind of my baby.
Right.
And I wanted to see it, continue to go. And I didn't want to sell it to somebody who would tear it up. I wasn't big on selling it to a VC. So this company was really good, and I've stayed with them. This will be 5 years now.
Wow.
But
it's opened up even more opportunities for you, I'm sure.
No question. And that's kind of, that jumping up in the middle of the night saying, "We're not going to make payroll." That's a scary thing.
That's a real thing.
That's a real thing. So any recommendation for your people, be prepared. There's going to be anxiety. It's not easy. It's super, and it's not hard per se, like you hate the work. You love the work, but it's hard worrying about things like making payroll.
Because those people,
they all rely on us.
They rely on us. It's a leadership, the burden of leadership, if you will, right?
So I strongly recommend anybody who's doing well but kind of not thinking about the logistical stuff of your business, get yourself a good finance person. Number one thing. We hired this guy who was CFO for a company for a long time. He wanted to go off to his own thing, so he was a fractional CFO. George Saloom, he's just awesome. And George came in as my fractional CFO, and we took the company and figured out, I was cash-based, and we went to accrual-based, and so he helped me figure out what was my most profitable part of the business, and we focused on that. So it was really kind of cool to take a step back from the day-to-day tactical stuff.
Because that's sometimes difficult to do, right?
It is. You're grinding every day. I got to get this quote out, blah, blah, blah. And George was like, all right, let's take a step back. And it's kind of uncomfortable at first, oh, okay, you want me to dissect my business? I don't, but he was really, really good. So strongly recommend that to you guys and the people that you work with. or anybody who's listening to this, get yourself a good finance person. Find a fractional CFO. You don't have to have a full-time CFO, but get somebody who can watch you do your quarter end and all that kind of stuff. And just figure out where you are. And
How did you choose him? Did you look at him as like, what is his past experience or what industry he's focused on? How did you pick him?
He was friends with my wife's nephew. And so my wife said, hey, you should think about getting George in to do your financial stuff. And my initial reaction was, why do I need that? And I took offense to it at first. Like, well, what do you mean? I'm running my finances fine. I had my accountant doing all our stuff, but so I kind of initially was like, well, and then they said, just meet him. And he was the best. So, get the right finance person. Don't get anybody that you don't feel comfortable with and that doesn't see your vision. George is a great listener. He tailored, our financial structure based on my wants and needs. So he was a confidant, somebody that I could really confide in and just feel comfortable talking about, like, hey, George, we should think about doing it this way. Yeah, that's a good idea. But, he always kind of guided me in the right direction. He was
almost a mentor in a way, because he's seen so many patterns.
Well, you think you're like a utilitarian when you start your own company. I can do it all. But when it comes to running your company, having the right finance person is a really big deal. So I strongly recommend that. He helped me. So this was before Exit Partners and the discussion. So I felt,
so
like,
there was like phased opportunities.
Never really thought it out. Mark, never thought I better get George and then I better get, Exit Partners. It was like, okay, I got my finance kind of really dialed in. And then when Exit Partner, it's all about timing as well. Like Exit Partner must have, I don't know, they didn't know, but
certain signals in the atmosphere or in the universe, right?
He said, hey, if you're ready, we can talk about it. And I said, well, talk to George. And so that's how that all got started. So George helped with packaging up the company, and it's a big deal. There's a lot of stuff you got to do to get everything packaged up and financials and all that, and get yourself a good attorney. I mean, we had this great attorney. Varnum is the name of the legal entity in Detroit. They were great. They worked with me, and rates were good. And so, but when you sell your company, you just be prepared. It's, there's legal bills. You got to package it all up. So
that's part of the game.
It's part of the game. Yeah.
But now you've been through that, and you're sending the elevator back down so that others can rise up, and
absolutely,
you've got the experience. And so I saw you the other day. You were approachable.
Yeah,
people could talk to you.
Well, that's good. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's great, because some folks that I've seen, unfortunately, are more closed off, or they think that they go into a different ecosystem in that way. But I love that you were still very much part of the community.
I heard something the other day. It was really kind of telling. It was really important for me. Is like, it's not the pursuit of happiness; it's the happiness of the pursuit.
Oh, I like that.
And I thought, like, that is a really cool. That's kind of like you're pursuing stuff, but you're enjoying it, and you're meeting people along the way, and you don't have to be an asshole. You can be a good person. You can be a good partner for your vendors, and I had, like, my healthcare person from day one till now, they're still handle our healthcare. So, do your due diligence, find the right partners that'll carry you all the way through. For time tracking, we use this tool called Harvest. Day one, I just did a Google search and said, like, what's the best time tracking tool? And Harvest, we still use Harvest. So I stuck with the things kind of all the way through, that consistency and all that stuff. So that's really important. So
I think
about it.
When you mentioned, look, as a young entrepreneur here myself, those systems and tools, it is a big decision, right? Because you can't just shift.
Yeah.
And so even our team I would say, all right, guys, we're going to evaluate this. I'm going to go ahead and make the initial, but I want the feedback.
Yeah.
Number one, was it easy to use? Do you think that this is allowing us to, in the next year or so? I mean, because that's a commitment. I don't want to shift and pivot on these platforms because
I think that's just the initial discussion, CAD as code is a really big deal for us, and you've helped those guys out dramatically, and the whole network or just relationships. And I walked into your place last night and said like, okay, I get this. This is really cool. This is good. So I commend you for that. It's a good vibe, but the value that you bring is that networking, that like somebody asks you like, hey, what should we use for our attorney? Got to use these guys. They're really, really good. That kind of stuff. And that's really important for me is like even hiring individuals. I was just talking to somebody today about like, somebody asked me like, how do you decide on who to hire? Do you look at portfolios? And I said, all their portfolios of designers look great to me. They all look extremely good. I ask them questions about work ethic, personality, how are your communication skills, that kind of stuff. So I think that's important. So once again, just having those relationships and using people like yourself to give them good referrals.
Yeah, one, the team of CAD as Code, they're great. I really love the hustle. You wouldn't see that in them, but through their actions, they're hustling. Michael,
Sure.
Oh my gosh, that guy was very deliberate and wanted to talk to me when I first met him. And he made some bold statements, but he backed that up. And it's like, okay, so I was very intrigued to know more. And when they really taught me what the platform does, it was immediate. This is so necessary because it touches everything. When we were talking to Joe, I mean, CAD touches the microphones and
all this stuff,
everything. And it's not where we're at today, but where the hockey puck is going. I think those people that aren't thinking about CAD as code or other systems and tools like that.
CAD is not easy tool to use.
And that's the opportunity.
They're hard to use. And we make a living part of our revenue comes from training people on using Alias, which is not an easy tool to learn. So their mentality kind of really struck me. I was the first thing, I got in touch with these guys because we were looking for somebody to build us a Blender to Alias data exchange. Getting Blender data into Alias is not impossible, but it's super hard. Getting it to come in right with proper layers and all that stuff. And so this friend of mine that I know back in Michigan, Bart, he said, well, we sail together. We're sailors. And I was saying, like, I can't find anybody to do this. He goes, let me make some calls. And so, like, he said, I think I found the group for you. And they built this thing in, like, a very short period of time. At first, I thought it was just, like, smoke and mirrors. I was like, this can't be real. But they are really good. And so that's a big part of their business is the data exchange. Mm-hmm. That's a huge nuisance for all of us in the industry because we're dealing with 3D content that is different data format for everybody. Every software company has their own proprietary data. And I was really looking for somebody that could kind of like democratize that whole data thing. Like NVIDIA's doing the USD, which I think is actually quite good, but every software company feels that their data type or data format is the best. So when these guys did this, I said, this is really amazing. They said, oh, by the way, we're working on this other tool over here called CAD as Code. And you can basically put in, it's command line driven. Like, I want to build this thing. And it's very ChatGPT kind of mentality. I want to build this thing to do this. And you got a viewer here. And I thought, like, that is really, really revolutionary. I mean, I don't see a lot of new things in the CAD industry. And this like blew me away.
You're spot on. I mean, I'm not in this space, but from the tools that are out there, I attempted it. Could I take a picture for one of my startups, get it to a degree where, I could put it in Claude.
Yeah.
And then further refine that picture. And then can Claude talk to Blender and build it in Blender?
That's not a bad way to go.
But
not a bad way to go.
No, it's not there.
Right.
And so that will only reinforce where CAD is today. I mean, they started with the hard.
Yeah.
So that they could.
It's not an easy. They tackled something that is a very big deal. That's super hard. Even Francesco said when he was talking to him yesterday, he said, like, what you guys are doing is not easy. It's really hard. This whole idea of using AI to use command line to build things is not easy. It sounds easy, but it's super, super hard. And they have a very unique tool. The other thing we like about a tool is like when you save out a file in CAD as code, the size of the file is incrementally smaller than some of these CAD files are like gigabytes. And you double click on that CAD file, might as well just go get a coffee to wait for it to load. And so I think that's one of the side benefits of CAD as code is just helping companies reduce the size of their 3D files that they have for legacy data. Because in our industry, you got to pull in a legacy file, carryover, like a platform carryover, and you're sketching over it and all that. So retrieving that file is really, really hard and time consuming.
That right there is the other benefit that I was like, oh my gosh, you can retroactively go and kind of see this evolution of growth.
Yeah.
Because you are moved, like you said, you're throwing it over the fence to the next team to kind of go out and do this thing.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that their skill set is.
Yeah.
So I dug that. I respect that because, in my past life, we were doing a lot of the software development type of activities.
Yeah.
And so just going back or understanding what version you're working on, diagnosis of this.
Version compatibility is a huge deal. You are absolutely dead on with that. And a lot of the car companies don't use the most current version of software because they got to test it, they got to package it. So they're 2 or 3 revs behind.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could have it so that CAD as code is kind of like the big orchestrator of all of this stuff, and that data retrieval is behind the scenes, like you don't see it.
Right. You don't want to see it, right? You want to build confidence in that, right?
Absolutely. You don't want to have to worry about like the file format and blah, blah, blah. You want, if it could just go out and retrieve it and just grab it for you, that's big time. So not only is their software tool, they're getting close to it too. It's going to be a subscription soon. And we really love them because they're very, very nimble and they are like, get stuff done. But this data exchange thing has been a big deal for us. So we have them with us at the Beacon event here. And a lot of people are very interested in what they're doing. These guys, Joe and Michael are like super smart.
And Bart, having Bart a part of that too.
No, that was a good move.
It was a great trifecta.
No question. He's very business savvy. I've been impressed with their presentations. Their content looks good. Mm-hmm. They don't, they look like they know they don't look like a startup to me. They kind of like come across like, yeah, we know exactly what we're doing.
I don't think they are a startup. I mean, they are very technical.
Yeah.
In fact, they're doing great things. I would love to go back to the Beacon event.
Yeah.
What are you seeing that's next? So we started talking about CAD as code. I think we know that. But is there anything else that you're seeing, or what was the discussion at Beacon about the hard problems, and what do we, as the community, needs to look at?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I've thought about that for a bit. And the first thing that I liked about it is just the vibe. That is really,
it's important.
To me, it's energizing. It's getting the vibe and getting rid of that mentality that you got silos and you only use CATIA to do this or only use Alias to do this. That's the vibe that I really like about Blender, is just having that. And so I think that's contagious. I think that's absolutely contagious. And I think for the young people coming into our industry, they're all about that. They're not about the traditional software packaging. They're all about
sharing.
Big
Zaps,
time.
Right? Snapchat. These
big
kids
time.
that they're inherently almost trained to think interoperability.
So that's the one thing, the theme that I think runs through these beacons is the community, and that's a big deal for them. But the technology is growing dramatically. There's always people nervous about where is AI going to take us? It's going to take over the world and all that. That's not the case. It's not going to happen that way. But it does help with these software developers to get stuff done. Instead of grinding it out and billing utility files and all that stuff, you just have your AI partner just have that help you do that. I mean, writing UIs and all that, which is kind of meat and potatoes, that can be done efficiently using AI tools.
I heard it best, and I forget where I heard it, is that this technology is designed to really help humans do what only humans can do.
Right.
Right. And so even as a human, I don't want to do the back end stuff.
Grinding.
Yeah. I was like, no, take that. Go ahead and do that.
I totally agree.
Like robotics. Like, no, I don't want to do this. I want to drive the end truck. I want to get to that. So to your point, I don't think that this disruption, it's the unknowns that makes everybody worried.
Fear of the unknown.
But if you can steer that,
yeah.
I think that
it's interesting because at the car companies, in the design studios, I won't name which OEMs, but they kind of all do it. They have a position called a data wrangler. That's kind of right up your alley.
That's
a wrangler.
Cool. Yeah.
All they do is pull data all day long. Get it so that it can be packaged up so the designer can use it to sketch over and all that. That's a perfect example of how AI can be efficient. Doing that logistics behind the scenes. That's why CAD as code to me is very interesting, because pulling data, extracting data, getting data compatibility. We still work with IGES files. We work with step files. IGES is like 60, 70-year-old technology. We still get IGES files from our clients.
Wow.
And that is, to me, in our world, a really significant way to utilize AI to make that process more efficient.
Do you think that that's holding us back as a nation in any way? Just like that statement alone? I mean, would you see us doing bigger things if we probably, is it an opportunity for us to level up in a way?
Well, I think there's first of all, people are trying to, my opinion is people were trying to figure out, okay, where do we use AI? What do we do? How do we do it? We're now starting to figure out, I think there's more people talking about it, having it do that behind the scenes work. Do you know what I mean? Like allowing you to be creative, allowing you to build CAD as code and come up with a vision, but having this tool to help you make that happen. I think what it's going to do, and I love this mentality. You think back then when, we're coming up on our 250th year anniversary for this country. Back then, everybody was a merchant. There was all merchant economies. You weren't part of a big company. You were Thomas Jefferson as an attorney, right in the Constitution. So it's going to create an economy that is more merchant economy, more individuals. And I do see this at Blender. Individual guy who's an animator works with a pipeline guy, and they collaborate on the project, and then they go away and they go do something else. But time to me, Mark, is a really big deal for people. Being able to work your ass off on something for 2 or 3 years and then go on a sabbatical for 10 weeks and recharge your batteries, spend time with your family. That's a really important, instead of that post-World War II mentality where you're grinding it out every day. That's where I think this country will prosper, is having this merchant economy where people are collaborating. But the government's got to get out of the way of a lot of this stuff, make it more so that, let's collaborate, let's get stuff done, let's do things together.
That's one of our guiding principles. Is like, how can we, that's the first thing we always say. It's like collaborativeness is kind of at the forefront. How can we do that? How can we connect? And if there's nothing there, then we'll create.
No question.
It's the gap. And then by creating, we're going to collaborate through that creation.
Absolutely. We've always been the innovators. The U.S. has always been the leaders in this space. We can continue to do that and even be further ahead by embracing the tools. Yeah.
I think so. What's next for you? What's, if you can say what you're working on or where you want to take the next 5 years?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't want to be out of the business. I love the industry. Like I said, in 95, I just fell in love with this whole 3D content world, and I love it. I'm going to stick with it. I'll do, like I've got a commitment with Linkage for another, I'm kind of coming up to the end of my commitment. It's a 5-year commitment, but I want to stick with them. I'm going to do more part-time stuff with them and kind of guide them to the next level. I think the CAD Code guys are incredible, and I really want to kind of help guide them through that whole process. So that's a big deal for me, being part of that, and maybe a bit more technology stuff, but having that where, the good and bad about COVID is, it allowed us to figure out a way to be wherever you are is wherever you can work. And I love that. The idea, if you're traveling, I'm a big travel guy. I love to travel. Wherever you are, you can still, like if you're in Hawaii, you get up in the morning early and you get stuff done, and you can still have this balance of life.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's a big deal for me. I want to stay involved.
Because that keeps us around.
Yeah.
Stress, right? It's a stress management. They say it's a silent killer. So you want to be around a very long time.
Absolutely.
Okay. We ask everyone at the end, and I kind of gave you a little bit of a teaser that this question was coming.
Yeah.
So what you're working on now, or where you want to go, is a mission. With that mission, historically in the military, they assign a call sign or something that kind of puts something behind that mission that really is a persona.
Yeah.
If you had to choose your own call sign, what would that be?
My call sign would be checkmate. Okay, so it's my last name. I like chess, and I think it's a great game, and I don't play it enough. I like to play it more, but I'm a sailor, and so boats that I've had in the past have been called checkmate because there's mate. Your mate is your team and all that stuff. So that's and I think that's that kind of like merges all my worlds together.
I dig that. I was like, the second you said Josh, I mean, that's another cool one that we heard a guy with a triple helix. He threw out a triple helix. I was like, oh, that's kind of sick. I like that. Okay, so we are in Texas. This is the Texas Embassy podcast. What do you like about Texas? Even though you're not here, I know that you see some of the power of this state.
I love the attitude of the people here in Texas. I think the attitude is let's get stuff done kind of thing. I like the mix. Austin, I haven't been to Austin in like 25 years. I'm a big Willie Nelson fan. I always love Austin city limits. It's changed like a lot, but it still has a vibe to it. It still has a bit of a gritty vibe. I love Detroit. Detroit's one of my favorite towns. I live in Detroit. We've seen some ups and downs, but Detroit has a gritty vibe to it too.
It does.
So I like the kind of the can-do mentality that Texans have, is like, let's just get it done. If you want a bunch of people on your team, get some Texans on there because you can get it done. So I do love that. And I think Austin is a great combo of entrepreneurs, unique people, getting stuff done, but it's still got a nice
building.
Yeah. Making things happen.
Absolutely. Building this world.
Yeah. I love that.
Thank you. This has been an honor meeting you yesterday and then you coming in here today.
No problem.
You're a champion.